All right, guys, we're getting ready to get started. All right, we're getting ready to get started. Again, we're here at Ponca Nation, White Eagle, Oklahoma. These guys got a certain way they start things around here. They got real traditional tribe here. So again, they invited some singers to come and start this event off. Mr. Stephen Littlecook and his singers. You guys give them a round of applause. At this time, he's going to ask that everybody please rise and remove your hats for a prayer song. And we're going to turn the time over to Mr. Littlecook at this time.
Oh
You guys can be seated at this time. At this time, I'm calling our invited guests to come out to meet the children. There he is, guys. He's the star of Primal Race, the star of Boggy Creek, the legend of Boggy Creek. He came all the way from up north to come and visit his Ponca relatives today. You know, he's happy to be here. You know, he's glad to be here. Makes his heart feel good. You know, at this time, he wanted to call his Oklahoma relatives up. He's wanting to kind of give just a little bit, take a little bit of time at this time. You know, you guys are accustomed to this. So he's calling upon his Oklahoma relatives to come and help him out at this time. You know, again, you guys know about these kind of things up here. You know, he's wanting to have his little moment at this time, and we're going to go to the drum for the appropriate song. You guys come out and dance with him. Round dance with him. Guys, come on up. Round dance with him. Now he's going to call upon a war dance song. Go ahead, take it away, guys. Everybody come out and dance with it. Invite everyone. All right, you just want to take just a little bit of time. You guys can go ahead and sit down. We want to kind of want to say a few things. He's that appreciative of being here today. So again, he's calling upon his Oklahoma relatives. And at this time, I'm going to let him say just a little bit. I'm going to try to translate for him. But again, you have to forgive me because it's been a while. So at this time, I'm going to let him say just some words. All right. I got this right. You know, he's proud to see these Ponca children here today. You know, he's glad to see Ponca Nation is doing these things for their future. One of these guys could be the future. He also wanted to say, you know, he's proud to be here today, and he's honored to hear these singers sing these songs, these Ponca songs. That's what Ponca is known for, is for their songs. So again, you know, he's proud of that. He's just wanting to recognize just a few people today, and if I could get he wants to call up Hilda Siri. Hilda Siri. Come on down. He's got something for you. He said that's his prize back scratcher. He'd like to call up Albert Little Voice. Albert Little Voice. He brought you nuts from California. His journeys. Oh. He'd like to call Sonia Herrera up. He brought you corn from New Mexico. He'd like to recognize a council member, Robert Collins. I'd like to call him up. Give something to the Ponca Nation at this time. This is perfect beef jerky. He like to call Lila Roughface. Lila Roughface. He's giving you those sacred beans like that. Like to call Charmaine Billy. Charmaine Billy. That's his sacred stick. Brought him many a babes, he said. They said you just point at them and they'll come to you. Like that way. He'd like to call up the head singer, Stephen Littlecook. He's giving you, gifting you, his most sacred object. His old paper. I'd like to call up Mr. Derek Whitehorn. Derek Whitehorn. Yeah. He said when you go in those meetings, you'll know what to do with that. Again, you know, he's thankful for being here today. And he's going to set up a little chair back here. Anybody wants to take pictures with him, you're more than welcome to take pictures with him at this time. Wavelaha. I'm going to turn the time over to Mr. Dan Jones.
Started out in the paranormal, so he's actually paranormal. Everybody can say.
You all returning to their seats.
Well, you know, there's such things as monsters, but there's also ghosts. There's witches. Oh, can you hear it? No? It's on now? You hear that? Okay. There's witches, and there's also the supernatural. And today I'm going to talk a little about the supernatural world. Is that good? A long time ago, we come from the north, way up north, the 1800s. We had a wasp at Wahoo, that's a white woman, lived with us. She was an anthropologist.
Hello.
Gotta talk about there. Okay.
Hey, y'all need to sit and listen. Hear me?
Long time ago, when the Ponca lived up north, that might be too loud. There was a white woman. She was living with us. She was studying. Her name was Alice Fletcher. She was an anthropologist, and she finally married an Omaha man They lived together and they made many friends with Ponca. As the old-timers would tell her stories, she'd record those stories. She was writing these stories down. One of the stories that she talks about is the Ponca tribe's relationship with the crows. The little bird, the crow. I guess a long time ago, the Ponca and the crow had a pact. They had an agreement with one another. And how that all started was one day these Ponca warriors were just hanging out, and this crow would fly around them, and then it'd land in front of them. And these Ponca men were watching him and saying, look at that crow, he acts like he wants something, or he has something. He says, look, he's got something in his beak. And sure enough, that crow spit out a little feather. And when the crow took off, these Ponca men, they looked at this feather, and it was from a goose. It was a goose feather. And the goose was a favorite food of the Ponca. And so these guys said, that crow, he's trying to tell us something. He'd fly around him, he'd come back and he'd land and he'd hop off, kind of walk like a man walks, and then he'd fly back off. So they started following him. As they followed him, he'd go from tree to tree and he'd wait for him to catch up. The last place that they stopped, there was a big hill, and they climbed on top of that hill, and there'd be a pond on the other side. So that one guy said, I think he's brought us something here. He's trying to tell us something. So sure enough, they climbed up to the top of the hill, and they looked down, and that pond was just full of those geese. So they had their bow and arrows, and they shot, and they got lots of geese that day. They brought them home, and they left the crow some of the insides of the geese for the crow. And him and his family, they shared them. They had been watching his family, the crow's family. And from that time on, the Ponca started a relationship. They used to use crows to hunt for them. The crows could fly around and see, and would come back and tell the warriors where the game was. So that was a long, long time ago. Well, we come up to my brother's era, about the 1950s, and he found a crow that was hurt just over here on the Shakaski River, on the Salt Fork. He found a little crow, and he raised that crow. He took care of that crow, and he grew up, and it'd follow him everywhere he'd go. He had an old pickup truck, and when he'd drive that truck around, that crow would follow him, flying above the truck. And they'd know when my brother was coming home, because they'd see that crow fly, and they'd know that the truck was going to be coming real shortly. So my brother, he spent a lot of time with that crow. One day, that truck had a flat tire. And crows are real mischievous. They like shiny things, but they are real smart birds. So my brother had a flat tire on the road. And back then you had to repair a tire yourself. You had to take it apart and take out they had a little kit that you'd carry that you'd put a little patch on the tire and fix it yourself, and you carried a little tire pump where you could air it up, fix the tire. He was doing that, and when he got out his tire kit, he noticed he only had one patch left. And at the top of the can that holds the patches, it has a little scruffer on it. It's called a scruffer, where you can make the rubber real rough so that the glue that's in it will stick to it and you can put your patch on. So he set his scruffer, the silver scruffer here, and he set his patch over here. And he was back on the back of the tire, pulling the tire off from the back of the truck, and the crow landed on the hood of the truck. And the crow's looking at the silver scruffer, and he's looking at the patch. My brother went, "Oh no!" And so he started telling his crow friend, he says, "Whoa, boy, don't." So the crow looked down at the silver thing, and my brother was saying, "Well, he'll take the shiny thing." The crow reaches down and grabs the patch and flies off with the last patch he had. So there goes my brother chasing the crow across the field. So we go through time, and my brother, he had gone on to school, to the boarding school at Chilocco. had a full life. And he passed away. And we had the funeral right here for my brother, my oldest brother. And I told that same story that night before we were going to bury my brother. I told that story just before daybreak. It was time for breakfast. They called us over for breakfast. Everybody was in the room. They heard that story. So they opened that door to go outside of the church. There were hundreds of crows all around the church, covering the church. So those crows had remembered my brother. So that relationship with the Ponca and the crow still goes on and on. Maybe one of these days you guys will find your crow in life. So that's one story about the supernatural. I think we have other stories here about Bigfoot. Tell some Bigfoot stories.
All right. Again, my name is Chris Hill. I'm Muskogee Creek. I'm from Okmulgee, Oklahoma. And anyway, a lot of people back home, they call me Christopher Ponca Hill. In Muskogee language, Ponca means monster or spirit, restless spirit. That's what it means in my language, Ponca. They gave me that name because I'm always running around, chasing and investigating all kinds of spirits, from little ones up to great big ones, things that are in the waters and things that are in the dark. You know, many tribes, they have many stories of supernatural beings, not only from the water and the woods, but from the sky as well. They've got supernatural stories of love and also of hate. They also have stories of revenge, old school stories like that. Tonight, or today, this afternoon, you know, I had visited with Tara Little Cook a while back, and she was kind of wanting to do this event during Valentine's Day, but, you know, because of things have happened, she requested a Valentine's story. And this story takes place up north, and I'll keep the tribe to myself, you know, out of respect for them. The story goes, you had two young kids, kind of like yourselves. They grew up together, boy and a girl. They were best of friends. They were growing up. They shared everything. They came from two prominent families within that tribe. They always was around each other. They always got along. As they got older, as many of you will, they went off to school. They were blessed because their people prayed for them, asked for those good things for them. They were both accepted to a school. They were in schools separate from one another, though. One went to school in Washington State, and the other went to school in Arizona, amongst those natives. As the story goes, you know, they were always like together. You know, during their ceremonies, they helped each other. When he would go into that teepee, she would help cook for him and his family. You know, when he would sing, she would always be there. Whenever she did things, he was always there for her as well. You know, they were taught good ways to take care of one another. The good thing was, they began to, like I said, they were both in school. They both got the good news. They're getting ready to graduate. So they called one another and they said, well, after graduation, let's meet in this local place, a semi-place, where both of us don't have to travel. And we want to celebrate together. Well, what she didn't know was this young man was going to ask her the greatest question of their lives. You know, again, these two were inseparable. Even when they were gone to different schools, they would call each other. They would visit each other on breaks. You know, he would come up and see her, she would come up and see him. You know, they were tight like that. They had that good relationship. Well, anyway, that young man, he got to their destination first. He got to the hotel first. He was going to have everything laid out good for her when she got there. He made all the arrangements. He waited, and he waited, and he waited, and she never showed up. He was brokenhearted and scared at the same time because they were always together. So he called home. And he talked to his people, his folks. They went to the next village to visit her family to find out what happened. Well, come to find out, on her way to that hotel, someone jumped the median and hit her vehicle and killed her instantly. The news shook it. You know, again, they were together, always. You know, he was brokenhearted. They say he was so struck with grief. You know, he couldn't even stand at her funeral. He couldn't even pay that much respect back to her. He was so heartbroken. As the story goes, you know, he didn't take care of himself. He didn't eat. He didn't sleep. He passed away a little bit after that. You know, and the families came together to put him away. And, you know, they both said good words about this young man. That sounds like the end of the story, but it's not. They say up in their country, when they have dances that are going good and all is right at their ceremonies, they will see these two young people, couple, and they will be dancing. And that's the sign to their tribe. All is good. Aho. At this time, I'm going to turn the time over to Pete Buffalohead for a story.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Pete Buffalohead, Ponca in Kiowa. I started out in the paranormal world at a very young age. And then until around 2010, I kind of transferred over accidentally into the Bigfoot world. And my ghost stories are not stories, these are actual true events. Within the last 2 years, I was actually working over here at the tribe over at SDC, which is now Hope and Recovery. I used to be told stories when I first started there about the building itself, the building being haunted. And I would say, okay, well, let's find out. And I would do my time in there. And come to find out, the place was actually haunted. It really was haunted. You had several ghosts that were in the building. At the time, we used to have a lady in white. We had two male spirits that were in there. One would stay in the bedroom, and the other one would stay in the restroom. And on Sunday mornings, they would take the clients to church. So I volunteered to stay back one Sunday afternoon And when it was probably 30 minutes after they left, about 11:30 in the morning, I'm sitting there at my desk looking at the monitors, nothing special on the monitors. But what happened next was even funnier, and it caught me off guard. I heard the bathroom door open up and slam by itself. And I'm the only one in the building. So I get up and I go check the restrooms, check the whole building over. Nobody's in the building. I go sit right back down. As soon as I sit down, the bathroom door opens up. This time they slam it hard. And I'm just sitting there laughing. And the reason I'm laughing is because ghosts don't scare me. I encourage it. I just said out loud, do it again, come on. Well, they did it again. They opened the door and slammed it. So I get up and I go check again. Nobody's in the building except me. And I just find it rather, for me, it's entertaining. And one night, not too long after that, I was doing night duty. And the old SDC used to have a big shed out in the back, and it was a weight room. Every room, everything in there has got cameras. They're equipped with night vision. So one night, I was just sitting back looking at the monitors, and I just happened to look at the weight room. When I looked at the weight room, I saw two orbs come out of the wall, and they just zoomed around the equipment, and orbs were about the size of softballs. They're just lights of energy. They're spirits. And I called some of the clients up. I said, check this out, look guys. And they were sitting there fascinated because they were actually seeing two spirits move around the weights. Then they started chasing each other. Then one goes back to the weight, the other one goes through the wall. So we're all sitting there looking at this, and I said, what do you guys think we should do? And they kind of looked at me, and they didn't know. I was like, why don't one of us go in there? We got a radio, take a radio, and we'll communicate. Well, you know how natives are. Natives being natives, they're scared because you're taught not to mess with spirits. You're taught to leave them alone, and they'll leave you alone. Well, guess what? I'm not that way. I'm the type of grab a radio and say, okay, you guys watch the monitor, I'll go in there, you tell me where they're at. So I'm sitting in there, over the radio, it's like, hey Pete, it's over there, northwest wall, it's just sitting there watching me. And I'm just sitting there, actually watching me on camera. I'm doing this, where you at, where you at, come on out, I'm inviting you out. And I told him, and he was like, okay, he's moving around you, or it's moving around you. I said, where's he going? He's going off to your right. So I'm sitting there following it. I cannot see this because it's pitch black in the room. So they're telling me, calling out signals or directions at the time. So I'm following it, and it stops, and it goes back the opposite way. So I stop, and they're telling me, and I'm following it. For some reason, I guess it thought I could see it. I couldn't see it. And I was in there for about 20 minutes. I said, okay, I'm done. Who's next? Next thing you know, somebody answered, I'm coming out there, we'll switch out. So we did this for about an hour and a half. But like I said, I was actually teaching them how to get over the fear of dealing with spirits. And by the time that I left to go to a new job, they understood it, and they were able not to be afraid of ghosts anymore. I was teaching them how to accept what's in front of them. So a lot of people aren't taught that way when they're growing up. You're taught to fear them, you're taught to ignore them, or just leave the room. I'm not that way, because the majority of the time, spirits all they want is acknowledgement. To let them know that you know they're there. That's all I do, that's all I want to do. You know, I try to help as much as I can. But in that same building, I had another incident during that church time when everybody left. I actually got to see the monitor. For some reason, someone left the mop bucket out in the mop over in the corner. I just happened to look in the commons room where everybody meets and talks and visits. I saw the mop bucket scooting across the floor by itself. And I just like, oh man, no. I get up, I run into the room. Sure enough, the bucket's there, so I grab it, put it right back in the corner again. And I go sit down and just do it again. That mop bucket scooted across the floor back to where I got it and stuck it back. And I was actually surprised that they actually listened to me on that. Usually they don't listen to me, they ignore me and they try to scare me, so I do it. So that really isn't much of a ghost story, per se, but these are experiences that happened to me. And like I said, I'm not scared of ghosts. I'll confront them, I'll talk to them, and try to figure out why they're there. So, we continue, or, okay, I will turn this over to Mr. Joe. Are you waiting?
All right. Again, here shortly, they're going to ask if you guys got stories here in just a little bit. But again, this story, goes along with a lot of the investigations that I do. Sometimes, you can see a lot of the stuff that I do on Facebook or Instagram, or sometimes even TikTok. I'll post some of the stories. But, I went to this one location, I will say Western Oklahoma. It's one of the oldest theaters there in Oklahoma. Anyway, they always said that there was, a lot of activity in this old theater. They said the history of this theater, there was a big fire in this little country town. And that, from this fire, they put a lot of the people's bodies in this theater to stack them up to prepare them afterwards, because they had so many people die from this city fire. Anyway, the story goes, they stacked them pretty high in this theater. And again, until a lot of the families had family people come from far off to claim them, a lot of those bodies would be there for at least a couple of months. And again, they think that was a lot of the activity that was in this theater. Well, also, again, you got people playing with things, things that they shouldn't play with, things that they were warned about playing with. Again, these townspeople, they had what you might call an occult division there, or occult community. They would practice bad things, as you might say. And in this theater, but nobody even thought about those kind of things. And myself and a group of individuals, we went in there to do an investigation to see what we might be able to find with all the cameras and all the recorders and all of the different equipment that ghost hunters have today. Anyway, we were roaming around, and if you ever been into a theater, it has tall walls just like this. And in one of the rooms, out of nowhere, an image of a being appeared on that wall. And this being had horns. To come to find proof, sometimes these things will make themselves known to you. And in this instance, this thing made everyone sick. So there are things out there that you cannot explain. I thank you again for giving me a time to talk. I'll turn it back over to Keith.
I was just in here trying to think about another story that, another occurrence that happened to me. And for some dang reason, my mind's going blank on this motif.
You got some help here.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Let's go into a bigger story.
Yay!
And like I said, I don't have stories, I have actual encounters. And I'm the goofy one in the tribe that goes to areas that we're not supposed to be at, or if we go into timbers, we're told to be out the timbers before the sun goes down. Well, me being newbie, I'll go down there at nighttime. And I'm thinking about this one story, but this actually took place during the daytime. And my son asked me, he goes, Dad, do you think you can take me down there and see if a Sasquatch will show us something? I said, okay, well, let's go check it out. This was on a Sunday afternoon, I remember this. And this is about 5 years ago, possibly? I can't want to say 5. But anyway, the story goes, my son, he comes to visit me for the day, and he goes, Dad, I want to go squatching. Let's see if we can see a squatch. I said, okay, well, let's go. About 1 in the afternoon. We get to my area, it's about 1:20, 1:30 in the afternoon. We get out, I gear up, and we start walking in our area. I go down the hill, down to another hill, to the very bottom. I'm walking through the timbers. We're walking north. And I get this weird paranoid feeling whenever a Sasquatch is around. And plus, I get a heaviness in my chest, hard for me to breathe, so I know a Sasquatch in the area. So we're down there, and my son was like, Dad, are they around here? I said, just listen. So we sat there for about 2 minutes listening. You can actually hear 2 legs moving in the bushes. Not 4, 2 legs. And I said, well, there's one here with us right now. And I can't tell if he's a big one or a little one. So we continue walking. And we're down there for a good hour and a half. I said, well, I guess he's not going to show himself. I said, all right, let's go on back. So we walking up the hill, we hit this second level, and we're back up on the top level. Now we're on a straightaway. There's actually a trail that goes through the woods where trucks go through. As soon as we stepped on that, we are less than 20 yards on this trail. We hear this loudest roar right behind us. I give it no more than 10 feet behind us. It is like a massive. I mean, I felt my chest vibrating. That's how loud it was. And my son, I froze in my spot, and my son's 5 feet behind me. He goes, Dad. I said, yes. He goes, my heart's in my throat. I said, yeah, I got to figure that out. I'm there with you. And he goes, he's right behind me. I said, yes, he is. Well, I turned around and looked. There was nothing there. But he had been standing no more than 10 feet behind me when he roared. I mean, you want to test your manhood when you got Sasquatch standing behind you and it roars like that? That will test you big time. Because if you were to run, all he would have done was gently jog behind you while you're running full blast, and he's tapping you on the shoulder just to let you know he's there, just to scare you. So I learned real quickly to stand my ground. And there are many things in the woods other than Bigfoots. I ran across one dog man while we were down there. I ran across little people while we were down there. And at night investigation, we ran across a bunch of spirits that were down. You know, like I said, you know, I have more encounter with the supernatural than a lot of people will have in their lifetime, knowing stories. So, like I said, when I run across things, I'm not intentionally looking for them, unless I really want to go out and look for them, you know. On that same area, I had another encounter. This time, my son brought his wife with him. My daughter-in-law goes, Pete? I said, yeah. He goes, I want to see a Bigfoot. I said, are you sure? Can you handle what you see? Because usually you're going to run like a lunatic after you see it, or you're going to pass out, and I have to carry you back. I ain't going to carry you back, your husband's going to carry you back. So went to the same area. We were down there for an hour. We went a little further north. I said, okay, I guess he isn't going to show himself, but take that back. He didn't show himself, well, he did, but when we got down there, they were throwing pecans at us. And they're just letting us know they're there. And I acknowledge, I know you guys are here. I can hear you. I can hear the pecans. They're landing right in front of us. Well, we had a joker in their butt. He threw a walnut, hit about 20 feet above us on a tree, ricocheted and landed right in front of my daughter. And I was just looking, I said, what the? And I'm kind of amazed at the accuracy they had. I said, cut it out. Don't do that no more. Dang, he threw another one. Landed in front of her again. And I said, no more, you're not throwing walnuts. If you throw walnuts and ricochet, you hit one of us, you could hurt one of us. I don't mind pecans. Well, they clowned me. When they did that, there was about 50 pecans that come flying out of nowhere, landing all around us. And I was like, okay, jokers. You know, they're funny. They can be funny themselves. But anyway, on this route that we took through my woods, no, nothing. I said, okay, I guess we're not going to see anything today. We're going to go back. Well, my daughter-in-law is about 20 yards in front of us. She's walking. I noticed she stopped and she turned east and she's just staring. And I was like, what's she staring at? But anyway, I walked right up next to her and I looked exactly where she was looking. I said, I'll be that day. There was an 8-foot brown sass on the other side of the pecan tree standing there watching her. I'm looking at it and I said, that is so cool. Next thing you know, he disappeared right in front of us. So I reached back, I turned around and said, Keith, did you see it? He goes, yeah, I saw the Sasquatch brown arm standing by the tree. I saw it. I was like, okay, I'm just making sure. 2 witnesses. Usually when I go down there or I take somebody down there, if they want to see one, they'll usually show themselves. Not right off the back, it's usually when they leave, they decide to show themselves. And that Sasquatch was no more than 30 yards away from us. So, like I said, I got no stories, and I got no stories. So, like I said, that's the end of that story. So, I'll turn it back over to Mr. John.
Well, we have another legend here that's quite famous for the Ponca tribe, and I'll call on my sister, Darlene, to tell about Deer Woman. Oh, yeah.
Okay, the last time I told a story about the deer woman, or Ponca called her Dr. Anyway, I was wearing a costume that looked like a deer head. That's one of my antennas that in it. Anyway, today I want to tell you just a short story about the way it was told to me. I was raised up on mom and dad. My mom was Ponca, was called, and then my dad, Ponca, and from Little Brook, from Ponca, you know, super Ponca, you know. Anyway, the way that they told me when I started, you guys maybe know you, but they said we'd have dancers down there at the top of, like, you know, where we have our junior games and all that, they call it ball field and that's North Arena. There's a lot of names for it, but I always knew them as the powwow ground. Anyway, they used to have a lot of powwows, you know, every August before the kids got shipped off to government school. Anyway, just to say goodbye to them and stuff like that. But there was, on the last night, they also had 49, and that's a social dance. Not for children, but for like teenagers and adults. Go out there and maybe snag, no, and they just go out there and drink and sing and dance and have a good time. And one year, they was gonna have that 49 in that main arena. And so after everybody went out there, took a drum out there, they was gonna start that 49. Here, there was a little boy, not one of you guys, here he was out there. And they already started that drum, everybody was dancing around. And that little boy looked down, and he seen this woman dancing. And she had on a black skirt, she had on a white top shirt, real pretty, ruffles, and then she was wearing black shawl. And she was dancing this 49, and that boy looked down at her feet, and one of her foot had shoes on it, real shiny, patent leather, and her other foot was a hoof. And I guess she tied that up too, but Anyway, he looked at her foot and it was a hoof and he said, dear woman, like that, and everybody stopped singing and there she knew that Jesus was up. So she started running and she was running around the circle, running the power ground. And when she was running, she transforming into a deer. She fell on her legs like that, and she started getting hoofs, and her legs started getting looked like deer, and her back was big. And here she started getting those antlers in her head. But the more she ran, the more she turned into a deer, and the faster she ran. So those little kids, like the rest trying to catch her, they're running right behind her. Dear woman, dear woman. And she just kept running. Finally, she got out of there, but that shirt was hanging off her neck when she was running into the woods. So after that, her Ponca looked for her. I don't know if she ever changes clothes, but I know she's got one hoof. And so they said she don't bother no woman. She just bothers boys because her boyfriend, he was Ponca, and he got killed way over there in World War II. And he promised her he was going to marry her, this Comanche woman. And when he never came back, she started looking for him. Every Ponca hour she's looking for him. And when she can't find him, she gets mad, and she wants to kill somebody. So she'll hide around back to those camps in the woods. And then she sees a man walking like that. She'll say, come over here. And they go over there and she'll stump him with her hooves. Or if she don't kill him, she'll make them go nuts, you know, just from looking at her. Because her face is changing, you know, from human to deer. And they can't take it in their mind, they go nuts. You know. But every time there's white people come down to them, riding around in their truck. Dear woman, come out. No, she's not going to come out. She's here, but she's like a spirit because it's been so long. And those Comanches, they got strong medicine. Ponca's got strong medicine, but the Comanches got strong medicine. They call them shapeshifters, where they can change into different kind of animals. And that's why she can turn into a deer. So anyway, if you do see her during Ponca powwow, if you're a girl and you look down and you see a hoof or something, you won. All your brothers, your uncles, grandpa, whoever. Say, I've seen that deer woman, I think you have to be careful, you know. But I don't think you can kill her. She's a spirit. And she ran away. They even put a big fence around that arena one year. Right at that, and they still can't take her. She jumped over that fence. And when she jumped over that fence, she landed on some cars. Then the past the windshield, and she was going car to car like that. So like I said, she's real. Because not much believe it, but I'm telling you, she was banned by this tribe too many times. And they said one year she was even giving kids rides in that river. The parents couldn't find their kids and they went to that river here. They was riding on the back of that deer. She was giving rides on the back. So just be careful. And that's all I can do is to warn you, if you're a little boy, teenager, man, just be careful when you go out there. Don't look at her, don't talk to her. She'll try to hurt you. Anyway, that's my story as I talked about it. And so just remember that, you know. It's a real story. Because listen, one people, they think she's at the cemetery. She's not at the cemetery. She's right down here. They even call it Dillman Creek. And but she don't come out. And I said, Ponca powwow. And they go right around their tracks as much as they want. But they're not gonna find her. You can't find her just like that Bigfoot. She's here. I think they're all over the United States, but there's a lot of tribes out there by the ocean. And they got statues put up to that Bigfoot, that's what. Because he's real. And when I was in high school, many moons ago, I gave a report on Bigfoot, that's what. And at that time, they couldn't find them either. They just had a couple of fuzzy pictures. And So, but I think he might be a spirit, but I think that because they find his hair and they, things that he eats, like owls and anything that wanders around out there, he can eat that. Pigs, whatever. But I'm not scared. I've been living right here in Hawaii for 10 years. They called me down girl when I was little because I lived uptown. But now I live right here, right across the street from the woods. And there's a spring right across the street from where I live. And that's where all those little people hang around. And if they wasn't real, Poncas wouldn't name them. And the Poncas call them Manawabis, which means little people. And this, I live right across the street from that spring. They gapped it. They don't use it no more. But those little people, those Manawabis are still there. And they come to my apartment. And they like to move things around. They're like what you call tricksters. They like a shiny bracelet or earrings or anything, they'll get it and then they'll hide it. And you say, look, that's what my wolf is in here. So all the time it's hidden. And they say, oh well, can't find it. And then when you give up, well, then they bring it back and put it right where you can see it. And I used to have pictures around my mirror in my dresser, and I'd go to church or something. When I come back, all those pictures be rearranged. And I know that's those little people. And like I said, if it wasn't real, the Congress wouldn't give them a name. And that they're Monopoly. And so, but they don't harm you. My mom said if you see a ghost or an orb or, you know, anything supernatural like that, she said you're supposed to talk to them. If you don't know how to say it, Ponca, I'll teach you. It's Wakata, Madi'ia. And Wakata, all you gotta do, the way I remembered it, is a gate, you know, the gate that opens like that. And you say, Wa-gata, Wa-gata. And then Madi is walking. Madi-ia. So you tell the ghost or spirit or dear woman or whoever else, like Wakata, Madi-ia. That means go away, leave me alone. And they will. They'll listen to you. You don't have to scream around and run. You just have to say, Wakata, Madi-ia. Can you all say that? Say Wakata. Wakata. Madi-ia. Yeah, Wakata, Madi-ia. That means, go away, leave me alone. Got it? All right. But don't be scared. You know, they're not going to hurt you. They're not going to bother you. But you just got to maybe put a little food out for them. That's why you're not supposed to leave food on your table. Because the spirits are around. You cover it up with newspaper, tablecloth, whatever. Or you put a knife on top. And that will keep them away. Because where I lived, there was my granddaughter, Sharice England. She lived right across from me. She said, oh, Grandma, she said, are you living there? I said, yeah. And she said, ooh, she said, we have to see blue lights over there, floating around over there. And I said, I'm not scared, I'm not worried about it. So I moved in, and sure enough, I could see a black shadow. Sometimes I go in the bathroom, I see a black shadow walk by that door. And it looked like a woman, because I could smell perfume real strong. And I don't wear the Digress by Avon. I don't wear that. I just use soap and water. No, I don't. But, you know, I could hear I smell cigarette smoke real strong too. And I don't smoke cigarettes. So I think, you know, and I burn cedar and sage and spray and all that. But like I said, don't be afraid. You know, just talk to them. Walk, but I'm not there. Leave me alone. And so that's all I want to tell you today, you know. You can hear a lot of stories about that dear woman. But if you hear it, just say, no, I know she's alive and I know she's not going to bother me if you're a little girl. But if you're a boy, then, no. I didn't know what to do. No. All right, thank you.
Does anyone else have a story out there they'd like to share with us? The mic is open. Anybody? Anybody has a story? Okay, I got this one. This comes from the Wind River Reservation. You know, I got a chance to travel around Indian country because I used to work for Indian Health Services. And anyway, they have stories up there about, you know, all kinds of different beings. You know, this story is about these children that they talk about. They'll come to your home at night, and they'll want to come in. And they always say if they show up, don't ever let them in, because they will do bad things. These are not such good spirits. You know, they roam those mountains and those forests around that Wind River Reservation. You know, again, they say, you know, if these children come around, you should turn your back to them. You know, they have certain medicines to ward these things off. You know, again, I was a visitor. You know, I had just got there and I heard the stories. You know, as soon as I got there, people told me, said, you know, you go and run across these, you know, on your walks. So just go the other way. You know, and if they ever come to your house, don't ever let them in. Well, anyway, I guess a few nights have gone by, and it was it was during winter time. It was already nighttime. There was snow on the ground already. And I was turning in early because I knew I had to get up early in the morning to go to work. And I heard something knock on my door. And I looked at the clock and I said, it's about 10 o'clock at night. I wonder who would be coming out in this weather at this late at night. So again, I peeked through the window and I seen these two little children standing in front of my doorway. Again, I forgot all the stories and everything that everyone told me because it was late at night for me. You know, so I opened the door. And it was two little children. It was a boy and a girl. They were standing at my doorway. And they had their heads down. But I could tell that they had like dirty faces. They had old, torn, worn out clothes on. You know, again, I didn't know. You know, I thought maybe they might be, you know, one of these reservation kids or you know, I didn't know how far the next house was to where I was staying. So, you know, again, I asked them, do you need any help? And for some reason, when I started talking to them, I've got this real scary vibe that went up my back, through my arms, to my head, made the hairs on the back of my neck just raise. And at that point, I remembered those stories. But it was too late. I had already opened the door. And these children kept asking me if I would let them in. And I said, well, I could call somebody for you. And I said, I'm here by myself. I don't think that's a good idea to have children come in. You know, and again, they asked again. But when they asked, again, that shiver went down my back. And I knew at that moment that these weren't real children. And I got a good look at their eyes, and it was just holes in their heads. It was dark, piercing, right through me. And again, I told them, I said, you guys go on. I'm not bothering you guys. You guys go on home and leave me alone. And I shut the door. And I locked the door, of course. Again, I heard things walking on top of the roof of that house. I could hear these little feet going one way and the other one go the other way. I heard things tapping on the window. And I heard giggling. Not just a regular giggle, but an evil giggle. I began hearing laughter from room to room. It went from the kitchen to the front room. And at this time, I already knew I made a big mistake. I knew this wasn't going to end up good. You know, it lasted all the way till the sun came up. And when the sun came up, of course, I went outside to look around and to see where those footprints might have went. But I looked at that snow, and you could tell there was nothing that ever walked on those snow. You know, and I talked to one of the elders at the tribe the next day, and again, they did a ceremony for me and told me that these things will come to you in dreams, and they will try to call you back. So again, you know, that's a story that I've had of an experience. Again, I'm going to turn the time over to Pete.
That's a good story. A story just popped into my head while I was sitting here thinking about one. About 2000 and, I take that back. It was around 1997. I lived here in Whitehall, over on Blue Elk Way. And I always knew the village had those children that would run around, as well as adult spirits and everything. Well, at the time, my wife went to do laundry in town, so I was doing some beadwork. I was sitting at my table. House is clean, rooms are clean, everything's put away nice and neat, windows shut and locked. I heard a commotion in my boys' room, so I got up and went and checked. Nothing's out of place. So I'm sitting there, okay. Shut the door, go back to beading. Damn it, excuse me. It sounded like a big ruckus going on in my boys' room. I was like, okay. I went in there, looked around. Nothing's out of place. Opened the closet, looked around, nothing out of place. Shut the door. And just because of that, I checked every window, every door, everything's locked and secure. I said, all right. So I went down, sat down at the table, I'm beating, I'm going to town. I'm leaning over the table, out of my peripheral vision, I see a little head pop around the corner. And he's looking at me. And I said, I see you. Do you want to come over here and sit down? Are you hungry? You know, in our tribe, we don't feed the dead. But sometimes we do. It just depends on the situation. And I'm sitting there, and that head just goes back around the corner. I said, all right, whatever. I'm beating. Out of my peripheral, right around the corner, I see him step out. And I'm looking at him, and I'm still beating. I knew he wasn't, I know for a fact, he wasn't real. But how he looked, I knew was probably around the 1920s. Bowl haircut, overalls, ratted out, no shoes on. So he's a little Indian boy. I know he's Ponca. So I kept beating and beating. About that time, I used my right foot and I slid the chair out. I said, "You want to sit down?" And he ran back around the corner. I said, "Okay, do whatever you want. Just leave me alone. I'm doing some work here." I'm beating and beating. This time he comes out around the corner and he comes up 5 feet. He's at the edge of the table. I said, "If you want to sit down, sit down." He didn't sit down. He moved closer. Now he's within 3 feet of me. I'm sitting here beating and beating, doing my thing. And like I said, I've dealt with spirits my whole life. I know how to do that. And I said, "You're going to sit down? If not, then go away. I don't have time for you." And actually, inside, I was getting a little jumpy because I've never had a spirit confront me like that before. So I said, "You know what? I'm going to get up there and the TV up a little bit. I can barely hear it." I get up and I walk into my living room. As soon as I walk into my living room, he ran up right behind me. And I was like, "Dang, okay, he's not leaving." So I walked over to the TV, I turned it up, and when I turned back around, he's standing right here. And I'm thinking, "Will you move?" He wouldn't move. I said, "Fine, I'll go around." I walked around it. My front door was open, the screen door was right there. I said, "I'll be right back." I turned around, opened the screen door, walked outside. God dang, I just let the jitters go. I was just like, I've never had that happen. But I was like, "Dang, okay. That was a good one. You got me. I'm not going to lie." And about that time, my wife pulled up. She goes, "What's going on?" I said, "There's a spook in the house right now. He actually scared me. And it's hard to scare me, but he did it." And I went back into the house. As usual, nothing there. But he was a little boy about yay tall. I probably give him about 8, 9 years old from the around 1920s. And everywhere I go, I'm always falling into the spooky rhythm. I was on tribal council in 2010. This probably happened around 2011. Friday afternoon, spring. Everybody was going to lunch. And I said, "I still have stuff to do. I'm going to stay here for lunch. I'll go later." Everybody left the building. I'm the only one in the corner office sitting there. I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, down in the kitchen, I hear shoes. Now, what's so distinct about these shoes? They're patent leather shoes. So you guys know the sound they make, patent leather makes on linoleum. I'm just sitting there listening, and I can hear them walking from the kitchen, up the stairs, hitting the second deck, making their way up the stairs again, down there in the hallway. And I can hear them walking down the hallway. I'm sitting there typing away on the computer, doing my thing, and next thing you know, I hear it go to the end of my hallway. I got my door open, I'm just typing away, and I hear it come down the hallway towards my door. It stopped at my door. I turned around, there's nobody there. And I was like, "Oh, that's cool." Go to the end of the hallway and do it again. He did. I said, "Well, if you're not going to help me do my work, I need you to leave." The ghost got mad. He stomped off, turned around and stomped off. Went exactly the same way that he came into the room. And I'm just sitting there like thinking, that's weird. You know, I mean, when I run into crazy situations like that, usually I'll get up and freak out, but I didn't freak out on this. I just upset the spirit, he turned around and he left. So, 2 of my stories, I got 54, if y'all want to hear. So, I'm going to turn it over to Chris again. So, like I said, I could be here all day doing this. Yeah, question? Have I ever ran into a skinwalker? Yes, I have. My first encounter with the skinwalker was back in around 1994. We were on the Zuni reservation, and we had relatives there. Really, my stepdad and relatives. And we were hanging out with the relative's oldest son. He's about our age. So me and my younger brother He goes, you guys want to go for a ride? Yeah, let's go for a ride. All right. There's an old swimming hole back here. The natural spring-fed swimming hole. Damn that water. Excuse me. That water is cold. And we went and swam, did our thing. Then we were heading back to the house. He goes, you guys want to see something weird? Yeah. What is it? You ever seen a skinwalker? I was like, no. Do you want to see something? I was like, yeah. So me and my brother like, this is gonna be interesting. So we drove through the cemetery, around the cemetery through it, stopped at a tree with bushes. He goes, you see that house right there? I said, yeah. He goes, watch. I said, what am I watching? He goes, just watch. I saw 4 dogs come up to that front window. One was a German Shepherd, one was a mangy-looking retriever, and 2 little bitty mutts. But the mutts were big enough to look in the window. I said, okay, dogs looking in the window. What's the big deal about it? Wait, watch. We're sitting there watching. I said, okay. He goes, just watch. I said, okay, they're watching. Those dogs were leaning in and looking in the house. The dogs turned around and walked off on their hind legs. All 4 of them. And he goes, those are 4 witches right there. They're looking for something in that person's house. I was like, how do you know about it? He goes, I've been watching them for a week now. I said, do you know who they are? He goes, no. I said, we got a rifle. I mean, technically, the theory goes, if you shoot them, they do transform back into their human shape. That's the theory. But that was my first time ever running across Skinwalker. My second time I ran across the Skinwalker was while I was in the Marine Corps. I was pulling guard duty one night, 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm doing my guard duty. I'm feeling weird. Something's not right. So I'm doing my patrol, going back and forth. And all of a sudden the hairs on my body stand completely up. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? I looked over in the northeast corner. We have 10-foot fences, razor wire going around the top. There's an owl sitting on that razor wire, that corner post. I'm looking at it, and I was like, get out of here, go on. I don't need none of your crap right now, go away. It wouldn't leave. It went, whoo. I was like, oh, no, you didn't. I grabbed a rock. Boom! I should have hit him. But what does he do? Moves his head. The rock missed him. I was like, oh, no. I grabbed another rock, I threw it again, this time he just went. I saw the rock go by here, I was like, oh, I want to cuss so bad, I'm sorry guys. But what happened after that? The owl took off, flew in a ditch. There was a ditch in the back of the armory. I hear something moving around. I get up, unsling my rifle, I got it ready. I'm looking through the fence. There's a huge 6-foot, 6.5-foot bush down there. I see a head pop out. And it's a coyote. To me, it looked like a coyote. And it pulled back in. I said, you're not scaring me. You kind of got me uneasy, but you're not scaring me. It ran to the other side of the bush. Peeked out and looked at it. What was so different about it? The head was 5.5 feet off the ground. And I'm just like, God dang, all right, cool. All right. So I turn around, walk, get my round, I come back. I don't see him no more. I said, where did he go? Right next to the armory is motor TV. I hear something fall back there, an oil pan or something. I Robin Hood my rifle, slung it around me, ran to the side of the building, ran up on top of the building, took my rifle off. I'm going straight down, following. And I get to the edge of the building. I look off the edge of the building. I don't see nothing. All I see is a oil deck over there where they're changing out oils up to 5 tons and everything. And I'm like, where'd he go? Where'd he go? I'm looking. All of a sudden, I see this head come up on the other side of this wall. Then the shoulders came up. Then it stretched. I see 2 pointed ears up, no neck, shoulders. He stopped. I'm not gonna lie, he stopped. And I'm just like, oh, heck no. Then he gets out of the oil deck. He's walking on 2 legs. They don't walk normally. When they walk And I'm just like, oh, heck no, heck no, heck no. And I got my rifle, I'm following, I'm debating, should I shoot it? Should I shoot it? Should I kill it? If I kill it, there's a chance it will transform back into a human. I'm thinking about all the old stories and legends I was told about Skinwalker. I'm following, about that time I grabbed my radio. Sergeant, get up here now! And he's like, what's going on? What's going on? Get up here, there's someone gonna be dead. Take your pick. I hear the alert go off. I have 7 Marines running full blast, full gear. Weapons is ready, they're ready to kill. They get to the first fence line where all the LAVs are on the first deck. I see them. I'm on top of the roof. I'm following still. I'm on the other side of the west side of the building now, following. And I can see them guys. I said, get up here now. Now there's blood. What's going on? What's going on? And tell talk to me, Tom. I said, if I tell you, you're not going to believe me. Just get your butts up here. And as soon as them guys open that gate, they're running through the gate. That damn thing went from 2 legs to 4 legs. It took off running. They just saw a big dog run by him. He was like, all I heard was, what the hell was that? And I said, that's it, get it. And them guys took off. They're running between the vehicles. They're ready. And I said, it's at the 4th LAV, 4th row. Go get it, go get it. Them guys took off. It made it to the fence line. Don't know how it did it, but it got through the fence. They turn around and come back. I'm sitting there, I'm a little startled. And they said, what was that, love? And I said, you're not going to believe me if I tell you. I said, what was it? I said, that was a damn Skinwalker. And they said, you're joking. I said, no, I'm not. They said, what is that doing on his face? And I said, there's someone up here practicing black magic right now. And they were like, who is it? I said, I don't know. But there's another native up here practicing. A day later, I'm at Chapel. And I see a Danae. I haven't talked to him yet, but he sees me. I'm approaching him. I'm within 20 feet of him. He sees me, makes eye contact, he's backing off. Walked completely around me, didn't take his eyes off me. And I turned and looked at him. I said, I know what you are. And he backed off real quick. And I said, I see you up there again. I'm unloading you. He backed off. He wasn't seen for a couple of weeks until Romeo went up there. Romeo had to do his duty up there. But he wasn't up there 30 minutes. He's screaming over the radio, get me out of here now, get me. He is screaming at the top of his lungs. React goes off, boom. We're running, I'm geared up, I got my weapon, I am hauling up 3/4 of a mile to get to him. All those guys are running, we get up there. I hate saying it, but this is what happened. We get up there, he's at the gate, shaking the gate because he's padlocked in. Sergeant unlocks it. He kicks that gate open. And he's still got his weapon loaded and ready. So we ended up tackling him, throwing him on the ground, face down, took his weapon away from him. And you guys know the color of Walsons, right? Black. He is a black Marine, a dark green Marine. When we put the flashlight on him, he was gray. That is how scared he was. He went from black to gray. He got sectioned out with a Section 8 2 weeks later because of what he saw. And I asked him, did you see it? He looked at me and he didn't say nothing. I said, was it on 2 legs? And all he did was shake his head, yes. I said, I know what you saw. As soon as I was getting ready to confront this other Marine, his name was Yellowhair. And as soon as I got there, I found out he left 2 hours before the meeting. Going to make things right. I was going to take him out the pit and whip his butt real quick for what he did. But he transferred out. So I guess he wanted to do one more scare. And he got Romeo. But Romeo was Section 8 out of the Marine Corps. And when I last seen him, he was walking out on his own power. But a little after I understood talking to 511 artillery, he actually went into the funny farm. So he was actually in a mental institution after from what he saw. So that is my two encounters with skinwalkers. Yeah.
You know anything about the East Roads?
Do I know anything about the East Road? What do you want to know? Speak up, my game.
Little people.
Little people are not on the East Road. You'll see a lot of ghosts on the East Road every now and then you run across a Sasquatch crossing the road. Little people are over in the East Timbers. They'll go all the way back around Andrew Rosetta's property on the East Road. Anything else?
Have you ever seen a jack-o'-lantern?
A jack-o'-lantern, you say it's a little person. They just got different names. Yes, I have.
Have you ever followed one?
No. Why would I want to follow one? Would you follow one? Are you crazy?
Yeah.
They probably wouldn't see you for 2 weeks. I guarantee you that if you did follow one. So, when we were little, I'm talking grade school, first grade, kindergarten time, we lived on the East Roads with my grandparents. We used to ride the bus to school. On foggy mornings, really foggy mornings, you could actually step on the front porch and look at the field and you would see little lights running around them. They look like lightning bugs, but they're not lightning bugs. What makes them so different is you'll have all different colors. You'll have pink, reds, oranges, yellows, white. You name it, they're out in the field chasing each other. You can actually see them in the field early on foggy mornings. But we never went out. Grandma walked us out to the school bus and picked us up, and we left, and she went back inside the house. That's one of the ways. So I'm putting this back over to these guys so they can fall asleep over here.
Let's give them a round of applause for that. That was awesome. Great information. Good stuff. At this time, I'm going to call upon my nephew over there, Mr. Jeremy Merriman Good Eagle. He comes from the Primo family. And I know he has a story here that will definitely chill you to the bone.
Hello, how y'all doing? I got a little story here. Going to a powwow. Yeah, we going to a powwow, and we was talking about stuff like scary stories, and so it was like someone said, "Well, my grandma said if we whistle at night or if we eat in the dark or something like that, it would probably pass weird." And everyone was joking around, trying to whistle around, whatever they could, they call it. That's it. Like, it's not real. It's not real. They just keep doing that. We was just doing. It was kind of sightseeing at the same time, and it was, I remember in the morning it started the sun come up, and we come pulling up on this site, and it was like a lot of it was a sign of a battle, and it was like scouts there. So, and they was buried there. And people were like, "Oh no, I'm getting scared. I'm getting scared." But the sun was out. Okay, just stop here, get it. And it was so about that time, we get out the car, it was like, so we get out there, and all of a sudden it was like, you see like a loud sound, like BAM! And then it was like lightning struck. So, oh my goodness, lightning struck. And we turn around and in our car, the doors were open. Like, no, we gotta go, we gotta get out of here. Why now the doors just pop open? Like, oh my goodness, what are we doing? He's like, I cannot believe it. So we get out of there. We're like, man, we probably just start praying. Something we need to do. Something. No, don't worry about it. There's something I can explain. We should have listened to grandma and should have been doing stuff like that. So we took driving down the road. So it made me pull up at this next intersection is like a rest area. And it's like, oh no, there's not even no real food there. It's got a pop machine and it's got a snack machine. So we get out there and start walking towards the machine. Boom! All of a sudden, man, there's another light. And oh no, not again. Turn around. Hey, maybe this is just the rain because look, the doors are closed. So maybe it's just the false alarm. Man, she goes to the grandma. And then, boom, I see this like, it's a ghost. Like, there's another light in there. This time it was a face, it was a ghost face. And I was like, grandma. I started kind of pray. And this thing grabbed a hold of me and it just squeezed me. I'm trying to, and my friends, they must be doing the same thing for them. It's like a bunch of them. They like grabbed a hold of me and it squeezed me. I'm like, oh my goodness, can't move. About this time, I'm really praying. Oh, save me. So I said, hey, I got grandma on the phone here. She's gonna pray. Well, finally, this thing, whatever it was, let me go. Let us all go. That was an experience I can't ever really forget. The gratitude. Bad. So mine, listen to the elders. They say not to do stuff. Call those things. But that's it. That's all I got. That's all I got.
Oh, we got a visitor from Owasso, or Catoosa. Her name is Jerry. She's got a story for you guys. And she told me it was super scary. Here you go.
Well, I've got a couple of little stories actually, but the first one was probably like 30 years ago, and out east of, west of Red Rock, out on the Black Land, my brothers, they used to go out there and hunt a lot. And one night we were out there, we were early in the morning, probably got there about 4 a.m. and we pulled through the gate, and like brothers do, they try and scare you, you know, because I was all scared thinking about all the stories my grandparents had ever told me, you know, and he said, what is that behind us? And I looked, and all I could see were all these white little balls of light following us. Oh my gosh, I got so scared, and then he started cracking up laughing. He said, those are just cows. And they were just a bunch of cows out there in their heads, you know, but he got me spooked. And anyway, he'd been out there hunting by himself, and I guess one afternoon he fell out of a tree, and my mom was worried about him hunting by himself, so next time he went out there, I went with him. And I was up by the old homestead hunting by myself, and there's a creek that runs by there. And he went probably north of that homestead, hunting back in there somewhere, and I don't know, about 5 hours had gone by, and I hadn't heard anything from him, but I heard something yell, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's him, that he's fallen out of the tree, you know, and I thought, well, the easiest way for me to do is go down in the creek bottoms and walk all the way around and see if I can't find him wherever out there in the woods. And so I did. I walked away from that homestead all through this creek, and I finally thought, well, I'm going to come up out of the creek, and I started coming out, and I'm going to say probably about 100 yards out, I saw somebody walking, and it was a big guy walking out there. And I thought, that's odd. He's walking way down there where we never hunt. And I thought, well, I'm not even going to go down there and look, you know, see where he's going. I'm going to go back up to the house, because that's too far. But here I got up there by the house, and he was already there. And I said, well, how'd you get up here, you know? And he said, I've been up here, you know? And so he didn't hear anything yell or anything, you know? As I thought back over that, I thought, you know, I didn't see that guy wearing any orange, and I thought, here we are way out here, no, you know, away from town where people shouldn't be walking, you know? And I thought, yeah, I think that was Sasquatch. You know, I have my little sighting out there by Red Rock. But I actually live over in Coweta now, and actually live between Broken Arrow and Coweta, and we just love where we live. We lease 100 acres, and that 100 acres butts up to, I'm going to say about 300 acres if you look at it on satellite, because it's close enough to the city where Mazio's will deliver pizza, you know, but it's also on a dead-end road. And just beautiful country out there, and there's cows and stuff. But when we first moved in there, I would look out in the woods and at the wood lines, and I would see lights out there, and I kept thinking, there must be a road that goes back through there. And I'd have him out there looking at the lights, and then we figured out there was a little dirt road that would go out through there. And I thought, well, I can't believe people would be out there. But then I looked at it on satellite, and I thought, no, I don't know what those lights are, but we see a lot of them. You know, and there's times where I'll take like all our leftovers and go dump it for the coyotes out there. And I've gone out there a couple of times by myself at night, and we have this little bitty farm truck, and I'll go out there. And sometimes I'm fine, you know, I'll hear those coyotes out there, and I'll dump that food. But then other times, I'll know there's something there, because I will just hit the gas and get out of there. But it'll you know, send chills at me and stuff. And you know, of course, my grandma always told me, and my grandparents were Sophie and Elwood Koshaway. But Grandma Sophie would always tell me, you know, don't be in the woods by yourself. Don't be, you know, looking out there at night. Don't be doing all that, you know. So there at the house, I said we live on a dead-end street. And so the front of our house actually faces the street. And about every night, it seems like, you know, about 3 o'clock, I'll wake up and I'll go out on the front porch and smoke me a cigarette, take the dogs out with me. But here about a year ago, I don't know what it was. It's just the strangest thing. But I got up and I thought, you know, I'm going to go out here on the back porch and smoke. I thought, I'll never do that, you know. But so I walked out there, and we've got like an old street light out there. And I thought, well, I'm going to look up at the stars. And I thought, that light is really bright. So I have to go walk out in the middle of the yard. And I was out there smoking, looked up, and we've got an old barn, probably about 50 yards from me to my left, north, and I was looking up, taking a drag on that cigarette, and here somebody over by that barn whistled at me. And boy, I thought, I don't know what that is. I shouldn't look. You know, I dropped my cigarette. I didn't even put it out, you know. Turned around and I hauled right back in the house. You know, and it was real strange to me after I thought back about all that. I thought, I didn't even go in and, you know, wake him up and tell him, hey, somebody's out there. You know, and that next day I told him, I said, you know, weirdest thing, something was out there whistling. You know, I think it may have been Bigfoot. You know, I keep thinking there's something out there in our woods right behind us, and at night I won't go out there no more. You know, I'll just go on our little front porch with the light. But that's my little story, so. Yeah.
All righty. We have a visitor all the way from Orton, Kansas. Mr. Fred. Come up and tell us a story from way up that way. Let's give him a round of applause.
All right. A couple of years ago, I worked for our tribe, or for the tribe's Head Start, and I had went into work in my office. I was in my office trying to figure out the bus routes, and I was the only one in the building. It was summertime, so none of the teachers were working, and I was in my office, and out of one of the classrooms, we had all these totes full of toys that the Head Start children played with. And it was a tote, we had totes like this white one sitting on this bench, full of toys, you know, and there must have been 20 totes in each classroom. I was in my office and I could hear those toys, like I could hear something digging in those toys. And I come out of my office and look down the hallway, and I knew I was the only person in there. And I was like, hello? Hello? And I could still hear it. And I come out, and I walked all the way to classroom 1, and I could hear it all the way up until I stepped in the doorway, and it stopped. And there was one tote with the lid off sitting in the middle of the floor. And I walked to the building, all the doors were chained because we was closed. And basically I was the only one in there. Another time in the winter, I had to go in and we was shut down for 2 weeks because of the Christmas break. And I went in and I had to make sure that the buses would start, that the batteries stayed charged. So I went in and one of the bus's batteries were dead, so I had to go in the basement to go get the jumper cables. And in our basement, there was probably 8-foot tall shelves with all our curriculum and supplies and stuff in there. And luckily, my maintenance shelf was clear in the back of the corner. So I walked clear through the basement to go get the jumper cables. And I was walking back, I was walking down, and I could see down the rows. I stopped and looked, and there was a older man, he was probably in his 60s or 70s, standing in one of the aisles, just standing, looking at me, and all I could do was turn and try not to run. You know, I was panicked, I was scared, and all I could think was, don't run, don't run. So anyways, I walked fast up the stairs and I got outside. When I got outside, there was the only tracks going into the building and the only car outside was mine. And I called one of the teachers and I said, do you guys ever see anything in this building? And she just laughed, put me on speakerphone, and her and another teacher said, you see an old white man in the basement, didn't you? And I said, yeah, that's exactly what I seen. So after that, you know, our building was 7 years old and it was still relatively new. And I had went up there on a weekend to go and mow. So I was outside picking up sticks, and we just had an expansion built so we can take 1 and 2-year-olds. And so I was walking by those classrooms on the outside, and we was probably open for about 3 months on that side of the building. And I was outside in the yard picking up sticks, and I just stopped and I looked at the window, and there was a person inside, and I'm 6'4", and this person probably had 2 heads on me, so he was about 8 foot tall, inside our building, looking directly at me through the blinds. And I just stopped and I looked up at him and I went to the door and I went inside and into that classroom, and there was no one in there. The light was off. But when I looked in the window, the light was still on. So that's some of the experience that we had. Like, we'd have different teachers that would refuse to go into the buildings by themselves. We had tribal police respond to alarms up there, and none of our doors would be open. And then I was in charge of like the surveillance and stuff, so I started looking at the cameras, and you'd see at different times of the night, between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, our motion cameras would go off and start recording. And sometimes I would click on them recordings, and all you'd see was like maybe a car drive by, like a light go across the window. But other times you would see stuff go on a mirror, on our mirrored glasses. And that's just some of the stuff we experienced, you know, that pertain to children. So that's all I have.
Well, that was spooky. Again, you know, these stories that were told today by many of the various storytellers, you know, it's up to you to believe. You know, you can believe or not believe. You know, but I will say this, you know, you travel throughout Indian country, you're going to experience a lot of things. Some good things and some not so good things. You know, every tribe out there has their ways. You know, I know here at Ponca Nation, you guys got a lot of ways. You know, again, these stories that were told tonight, you know, by each and every one of them, these are the experiences that these guys have had. You know, as you guys are young, you know, again, like one of the storytellers said, you know, listen. You know, some of these things might help you. These stories that you have heard tonight or today might help you out in the future. You never know. You get a chance to travel or go different places. They might help you out. They might help you survive. You know, this story that I'm going to talk about is very near and dear to my heart. You know, just recently, I went to Las Vegas just a while back. And I got to visit this gangster's home, one of these old gangsters of Las Vegas. You know, all the ghost shows have been there. They've all investigated this house. You know, when I saw it on these ghost shows, they were all tore up. They looked like they were about ready to fall down. So when they invited me to go check this out, you know, I thought, man, this is going to be exciting. I was expecting this old, run-down, spooky place. But when I got there, it was all remodeled. Looked like they were getting ready to try to sell it off. And the whole thing was redone. Real nice. And the lady that was trying to sell this house, she was telling me the history of this house, about this gangster. You know, in the back room is where they would question and they would torture their victims. You know, and when they were done, these guys were no longer alive. So they would take them to the garage where they would dismember them. And then they would take them out to the desert and bury them in different places. And so, you know, when I was walking through there, you know, I kept seeing shadows, different rooms. I didn't think anything of it. I just thought it was my excitement. You know, really wanted to see something. I didn't really have that funny vibe, that spooky vibe they say you get when you see some of these things. Well, anyway, I was done checking this place out. I checked all my cameras. I went back to the hotel room, got to lay down, was resting for the evening. And in the middle of the night, something woke me up. I had this sense that something was in that room. And I looked at the end of my bed, and there was a man standing there. You know, I got startled. I got scared. And I jumped up and I turned the lamp on that's next to the bed. As soon as that light came on, that man was gone. You know, doing these things, you know, over the years, you know, every tribe talks about burning cedar or sweetgrass or sage or, you know, some kind of something like that to an effect. They always say, you know, take that when you travel, because you never know when you might need it. So again, I smoked myself off. I smoked everybody that came with me. I smoked that room off. You know, I thought, well, I got rid of it. You know, done is done. You know. Anyway, to make a long story short, you know, I was traveling around the rest of Las Vegas. It's time to go home. And I was going to the airport to leave. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw that shadow again. And it startled me so much. It gave me fear so bad that I turned to really look at it. And it was gone. Right there, I knew I was in trouble. Because I knew that this thing wasn't going to go away easily. Anyway, I flew home, back to Tulsa. It was late. You know, we drove back home to Skytooth. We have a carport, and we pulled up to park. And before the light turned off in the car, the headlights, you saw a shadow walk right across that light. It was the same shape and the same darkness as the one I seen in my room. And this gave me fear like you would never, ever experience. I knew at this point that I was in trouble. So we called our elders and we visited them. They came and they told me, sometimes these things are old. Sometimes these things won't just leave. You know, you go to places like this, you're going to run across something like that. It's not going to be easy to get rid of. Anyway, they smoked us off. They prayed for us. And I thought, well, these elders, you know, it's done. It's taken care of. But as some of you might know, just recently I was in a bad wreck. When I got hit in that car, when I came to, I saw this black shadow walk right past my window. And I knew it was still around. So again, you know, you guys that go out, look for these things, just like they say, sometimes these things aren't easy to get rid of. And they may cause bad things. I want to thank the Ponca Nation for allowing me to come out, you know, today, hearing these stories, and being up here with these individuals that I respect and honor. You know, I want to thank them for coming up, doing those. Wiblaha. Again, Ponca Nation. You, Wiblaha. I was asked to make an announcement back here where this young lady is getting these bags together, that they gave me a ticket. And today, with that ticket, you get a book. And the author here, Mr. Dan Jones, is going to sign it. So if you guys don't mind, go ahead and get lined up. But before we do, I'm going to ask Mr. Buffalo Head to give us a closing prayer of protection. Because some of these stories might cause some of these things to come around. And I'm going to ask him to say a prayer of protection for each and every one of you.
If you all would, please bow your head. Dear Father, we come to you again on this day, Father, saying thank you, Father, for this day. It's a beautiful day outside. And thank you, Father, for us coming up here and speaking and telling our stories today, Father. So, Father, if you could, you would. Father, as we all go our separate ways, Father, I ask for the white light of protection to be put around every individual in this room, shielding them and protecting them from any negativity, Father, that they heard today, Father. Now, these stories that we told are personal experiences, but at the same time, they can also awaken things. So if you would, Father, I just say thank you, Father, for this day. Praying for everybody and putting the protection around every individual in here, Father, so they may take this home and live a good life, Father. Father, this is all I ask for in your holy and precious name. Amen.
Okay.